Okay, Geeta Dhyana. Om. Oh, Bhagavad Gita, by which Arjuna was illumined by Lord Krishna himself, and which was composed of 18 chapters within the Mahabharata by the ancient sage Vyasa. O Divine Mother, destroyer of rebirth, who showers the nectar of oneness upon us, O Bhagavad Gita, my affectionate mother, on thee I meditate. All the Upanishads are the cows. The milker is the cowherd boy, Krishna. Arjuna is the calf. People of purified intellect are the drinkers, and the milk is the supreme nectar of the Gita. My salutations to the Lord, who is the source of supreme bliss, whose grace makes the mute eloquent and the crippled cross mountains. Hari Om Tat Sat. Okay, we start the new chapter this morning. The Yoga of the Trifold Faith. And this is discourse number 17. So it was 2 days ago we completed the Yoga of the division between the divine and the demoniacal estates. And the last two shlokas, Lord Krishna spoke to Shastra, or scripture, in terms of us utilizing Shastra in order to guide us on what is to be done and what is not to be done, what is beneficial behavior and what is not beneficial behavior. And that's where this picks up. That's where the 17th discourse picks up. So, with a question from Arjuna. These were the last two shlokas that closed the 16th. He who, having cast aside the ordinance of the scriptures, acts under the impulse of desire, attains not perfection, nor happiness, nor the supreme goal. And then, therefore, let the scripture be thy authority in determining what should be done and what should not be done. Having known what is said in the ordinance of the scriptures, you should act here in this world. And so Arjuna asked the question as an immediate follow-on to that. Those who, setting aside the ordinances of the scriptures, perform sacrifice with faith, what is their condition, O Krishna? Is it sattva, rajas, or tamas? So here Arjuna has heard the message about the nature of nature. And so it's permeating his thought at this point. And one would hope that we also, in hearing and then applying, would be seeing this as well in our own psyche, more and more. You have a good experience with rajas yesterday, dear. So, yeah, don't judge. You're aware of it. And it goes like this. So what to do when rajas is prominent? Devote it. So this is the question. Is it sattva, rajas, or tamas? If one sacrifices. What does sacrifice mean? Sacrifice doesn't just mean at the altar, right? This is all the altar. We're at the altar everywhere here. Yes? If God is everywhere, when are we not at the altar? So whatever you offer, you're actually offering to the one. When you offer your anger, that's why I say, be angry intentionally at God. Get that through.
Got a little bit of that yesterday.
Yeah. Well, have a lot of that if there's anger. At God, not at someone else, because there's no one else to hear. Oh. And that will bring the rajas to sattva, finally. It will. It will. Because you'll recognize, you'll start to have a habit of remembering who's here. And the reality is, if you're angry with an other, then you're not. You're only angry with God anyway. So you're better off recognizing it. So this chapter, this is Swami Satchidananda commentary. Chapter deals with the three kinds of people who are endowed with three kinds of faith. Each of them follows a path in accordance with his inherent nature, either sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic. And then he paraphrases what Arjuna is saying to Krishna, which should resonate. He quotes, Arjuna says to Krishna, quote, "It's very difficult to grasp the meaning of the scriptures. It's still more difficult to get a spiritual preceptor who can teach the scriptures. The vast majority of persons are not endowed with a pure, subtle, sharp, and one-pointed intellect. The span of life is short. The scriptures are endless. The obstacles on the spiritual path are many. Facilities for learning are not always available. There are conflicting statements in the scriptures which have to be reconciled. And you have said that liberation is not possible without a knowledge of the scriptures." An ordinary person, though ignorant of or unable to follow the teaching, does charity, performs rituals, worships the Lord with faith, tries to follow the footsteps of sages and saints, just as a child copies letters that have been written out for him as a model, or as a blind man makes his way by the aid of another who possesses sight. And so what faith is his? How could the state of such a person be described? Sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic? What is the fate of the believers who have no knowledge of the scriptures? So where do they go? The ones who have no knowledge of the scriptures. So it's a good question. And that's really the exploration in this entire chapter is this. And Lord dives into it in quite a bit of detail, speaking to how they think, how they act, how they eat, what kinds of food they eat, etc. And it's okay. So Lord Krishna answers the question. He says, "Threefold is the faith of the embodied, which is inherent in their nature. The sattvic, pure; the rajasic, passionate; and the tamasic, dark. So do thou hear of it." Now I'll tell you. The faith of the embodied, interestingly, who's embodied? He's not talking about the body.
The Lord.
So threefold is the faith of the embodied, so the individual soul, as it were. So really this is applying to astral, certainly not physical, but even a deeper connection than that. Okay, so its commentary, the whole world is made up, as it were, of faith. Faith assumes a threefold aspect in the influence of the three qualities. When sattva is strongly developed, then there is a preponderance of sattva or purity in a person. When there is, it's easy to attain self-realization or the knowledge of the self. If rajas is predominant, faith becomes the handmaid of activity. If tamas or inertia prevails, faith is annihilated. And he goes on, Swamiji, on the commentary, we won't read all of it on this, but a little more. He says, those who are endowed with sattvic faith aim at the attainment of liberation. And just this comment. So, often in Christian circles and such, we'll hear, ye of little faith, right? You don't have any faith, or he doesn't have any faith, or she doesn't have any faith related to someone else, right? But in truth, everyone has faith. The question is, what do we have faith in? How is the faith? What is the nature of the faith? Because the faith is the person. Faith in some of the translations is described as active belief. So something that you believe that you act upon. And we all have something that we believe that we act upon. Right? We might have what we say are beliefs, but if we don't act upon them, we really don't have faith in them. But there is something that we act upon. Yeah? We might say we believe in something, but then our action might be to sleep through the days. Right? So there's actually a tamasic faith there, and don't judge it. We only look at it ourselves within ourselves. And we can recognize it. We can come to recognize it around us as well. And recognizing it in a non-judgmental way will be very beneficial. Very beneficial. So really everyone then has faith in something or nothing.
That was me Monday.
Sorry?
That was me Monday when I had my crisis.
Wow.
That was my inner self being aware that I wasn't aware that I had no faith. I felt like I lost my faith. And then when I became aware that I was really going through this lack of faith within myself or thinking that I couldn't be a instrument of God, then that awareness alone really helped me. I don't want to be this miserable.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, very good.
Helped me.
And this, and we're always, you see, there's the reactive nature, which is influencing conscious mind. But our current knowledge is always different than our past knowledge. But our actions are reactions. So we're always, as it were, we're always in a state of transition. In other words, the reactions are always born of past knowledge.
Yes.
Not real knowledge, like highest knowledge, but knowledge of the world and the workings of the world, the ideas that we've had. But our current knowledge, whatever is our vow, whatever is our activity, whatever we see as our mission, whatever we see as the goal, whatever it is that we wish to embody, and everybody's always wanting to embody something. That's what this union is. Even Bhoga, even union with the objects is, I want to embody this quality or be with this person, and that means be in union with them or embody them. Yeah. So that's conscious mind.
Yes.
But the reactive nature, it's as if you're dragging along, but it also influences. It also influences, right? The habits are also influencing. So here, this question of faith, according to the nature, the reason this is even shared with us is we have the ability to recognize, just as you were saying, what is more beneficial, what is more in accordance with our current state, and intentionally choose. So otherwise, if it were simply so, again, we deal a bit with fate and faith. What's being described here is that the faith is according to the nature, but the nature seems like it's a set thing. But actually it's in transition. And this is where your free will and your resolves and your own inner work and how you relate and what you're studying, what you're imbibing in, all of this is how all of this relates, because it's always a work in process. So if it were so that the faith is this way, as being discussed, and it can't be changed, then
it's almost like what are you building towards?
Yeah, so this whole discourse is really about helping us to see where we are in our faith. right?
Mm-hmm.
And what it is that we wish to actualize, to bring forward, to make real, as it were. So, okay, those who are endowed with sattvic faith aim at the attainment of liberation. Again, liberation from what?
Bondage.
Bondage.
Yeah.
Yeah, liberation from bondage
Darkness.
to ignorance.
Yeah,
Oh, very good. Not from others,
No.
but from the idea of others. From the feeling of otherness. Mine will say, I want liberation from my husband or my wife because they're giving me a hard time. They're making me suffer.
You're still going to suffer.
The mind will say this. That's the reactive nature.
Yeah.
But the real liberation is not this. The real liberation is the liberation from the feeling of other. Oh. Okay. So he says, those who are endowed with sattvic faith aim at the attainment of liberation. Those who are endowed with rajasic faith run after worldly activities or inferior duties. Highest duty is love. We can say like this: the highest dharma is love. The highest duty is to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, all thy soul, and all thy mind, and love thy neighbor as thyself, as Jesus would say. Yeah, and Krishna says it in a very similar way. Highest duty, highest dharma, love all, serve all. Know thyself, be free. But inferior duties, so less than that. Worldly activities, rajas. So, and again, please completely non-judgmentally. And then tamasic faith is cruel. They kill animals for sacrifice. They invoke the spirits and talk with ghosts. When faith is joined to sattva, it leads to salvation. When rajas preponderates, it colors the faith and leads to various activities, self-centered activities. And when tamas predominates, the faith results in darkness. And now in teaching, Swamiji takes us here. He says, faith acquires different qualities when it's in company with the mind of man. Mind is a thing of many colors, just as the water of the Ganga is contaminated by being put in a vessel where liquor had been kept. So also a virtuous person is spoiled by bad company or constant association with evil persons. The three gunas or attributes color the faith of man. The mind of man is governed by the preponderating attribute or quality which manifests itself when the other two qualities are suppressed. Faith takes a threefold aspect in accordance with the inherent nature of the tendencies. Okay. So Lord Krishna continues, the faith of each is in accordance with his nature. The man consists of his faith. As a man's faith is, so is he. So when we meet people and when other people meet us, the person, what they're really meeting when other people meet us is they're meeting our faith, our active belief. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is that we're bringing forward, which is really the active belief, not the aspirational, I think I'd like to do this, but what's dominant in us now in terms of our belief that we're living according to. So, for example, right now you're here, and it's tough for you to be here because there's a lot of stuff. Om Namah Shivaya. But this is an active belief that you want to be better and you can be better, you can overcome. This is an active belief and you're working it. So as the faith is, so is the person, is what's being shared. And as the person is, so is the faith. Yeah. So and because the senses are all going outward, it's easier to see someone else's faith than it is our own. But here we're wanting to be able to see our own. What is our active belief? And Swamiji adds, the faith of every person conforms to his or her inherent nature or natural temperament. Man is imbued with faith. So the person and faith are really one. Whatever is their faith, that's how they are. It can be changed. It's changeable. But you define a person actually by their faith. When you say, this person is a bad person, they're always engaged in the wrong activities. They're smoking all the time, they're drinking all the time, they're doing this, they're doing that. Let's say you say that. So that faith is a tamasic faith. Best not to say bad. Yeah. The person always working. They're trying to get ahead in life. Rajasic faith. The person always looking out for others. Centered. Sattvic faith. So, Now, yes, please.
Can it be stated here, the example of habit, character, destiny?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And then number 4, let's look at 4. Now starting to step through what Krishna does. The sattvic or the pure ones worship the gods. Rajasic or the passionate worship the yakshas and the rakshasas. The others, the tamasic or the deluded people, worship the ghosts and the hosts of the nature spirits. Now, here in the West, since we don't really have that much of a relationship with God or gods or etc., we still do the same, but not exactly in the way that's said here. So the sattvic makes sense, right? Sattvic worship that which is higher in themselves and in all. Yes? Again, worship means, what are we relating to? What are we aspiring to? What are we offering whatever we do to? Everybody offers it to something, right? Some people offer it to sleep, tamas. Do in order to sleep. Some people offer it in order to get away from life or this or that. Also tamas. Some people worship money or power or fame or the things that they can get by doing. So that's rajas. Now these are all forms of God. Sleep is a form of God. This is what we miss. The blanket you want to pull up over your head is a form of God.
That's what I'm trying to say.
So we may not relate to them as ghosts or whatever. Ancestor worship. Ancestor worship is a kind of worship of ghosts. So, yeah. But also the ancestors are forms of God. So
Intense.
So that helps us connect with what the scripture says. Maybe it helps us to connect with what the scripture says. So in the West, we don't intentionally worship perhaps ghosts, but in a way we do, just not in the term. Ghosts. We live for the dreams of the past and try to replicate them. That's Russia, by the way. That's our dear Putin.
Yeah.
Very tamasic. Non-judgmental. Very tamasic. Dreams of the past. Those are ghosts. Worship them. So, and then tamas comes forward, of course, in terms of the action in order to So,
Avoid
but then the worship of money, the worship of power, etc. This is also a form of God.
Mm-hmm.
So rajasic worship. And then whatever name we use, some people who are quite authentic and have found the deeper truth in the Buddhist tradition or other traditions, their area of worship is the same as what the Hindu saint or the Catholic saint or the Christian saint or the Peace Pilgrim saint who simply referred to God. It's the same, using different names,
yes.
but worshiping that which is higher, that which is, Thich Nhat Hanh talks about interbeing. Well, that which is interbeing, that which is inter through all of this is Brahman, we say. We say. But we don't fight with the Buddhists on what the name is. Because it's the same. So that's sattvic. That's sattvic faith. Okay, one more and then we'll close. Number 5. So, and now Lord Krishna begins to discuss each one, starting with rajas, those who practice terrific austerities, not enjoined by the scriptures, given to hypocrisy and egoism, impelled by the force of lust and attachment. So we'll pick up there tomorrow. I picture when yoga was coming to the West, just beginning, and there are all of these, if you're interested in sometime on YouTube, there are all of these videos of yogis from the 50s, 60s, like this, 30s, 40s. And what was intriguing to the West, because the West is very rajasic culture, and sprinkled with a lot of tamas as well. But what came West in terms of yoga, the interest with yoga, was the walking on nails.
Oh, yeah.
Right, the walking on nails, the eating glass, and then I remember seeing the yogi whose hand is like this. This is an austerity. Who's holding their hand and had been doing this as an offering, as a sacrifice.
It's atrophied.
And it atrophied.
Dead looking.
And then they walk around like this. So that also. But in the West, in our own ways, wealth, pursuit of wealth and flaunting of the wealth is really not much different than that.
That's true.
And that same.
Yeah.
Oh.
Look at me.
Oh. Okay. Look at what I've done.
Yeah.
Look at what I can do. Yes, Jim.
Can I read something real quick? It has to do with yesterday's and today's and last chapter of the Bhagavad Gita.
Okay, yes, please.
Okay. So it's from the book of Mirda. It's
Oh, sure.
What is Satchidananda but a stone in the foundation of your life? And what are you but stones in his and every creature's edifice of life? See that Satchidananda be a faultless stone if you would have your edifice entirely.
What's the word you're using? Shravana?
It's, well...
Faith?
Shamadam.
Shamadam. Okay, and what's that pointing to?
Well, I think it's just a name.
Okay, so
It's
go
just-
ahead and finish
random
it.
page, but the
Sorry,
concept-
I couldn't tell what the word I was hearing. So okay, go ahead.
The concept is okay. See that Shamadam be a faultless stone if you would have your edifice entirely free of fault. Be faultless yourselves, that those into whose lives you may be built may have their edifice without a fault. Think you are equipped with no more than 2 eyes? I say to you that every seeing eye, whether on earth, above it, or below it, is an extension of your eye. To the extent your neighbor's sight is clear, to that extent your sight is also clear. To the extent your neighbor's sight is dimmed, to that extent your sight is also dimmed. In every blind man, you are deprived of a pair of eyes that otherwise would reinforce your eyes. Preserve your neighbor's sight that you may see the clearer. Preserve your own that your neighbor may not stumble and block perhaps your very door. Some more things Shamadam has insulted me. How can Shamadam's ignorance ruffle my understanding? A muddy brook can easily muddy another brook, but can a muddy brook muddy the sea? The sea shall gladly take the mud and spread it in its bed and give the brook clear water in return. You can defile or sterilize a square foot of earth, perhaps a mile. Can you defile or sterilize the earth? The earth accepts all men's and beasts' impurities and gives them in return sweet fruits and fragrant flowers and grains and grasses in abundance. A sword can surely wound the flesh, but can it wound the air, however keen of edge and strong the arm behind it? It is the pride of mean and narrow self, begot of blind and lustful ignorance that can insult and be insulted, and will avenge the insult with an insult and wash away the filth with filth. The pride-ridden and self-intoxicated world shall heap up injuries upon your heads. It shall unleash on you the bloodthirsty hounds of its tattered laws, its putrid creeds and moldy honors. It shall proclaim your enemies of order and agents of chaos and doom. It shall bestrew your roads with snares and shall bedeck your beds with nettles. It shall sow curses in your ears and spit contempt upon your faces. Let not your hearts be faint, but like the sea be broad and deep, and give a blessing unto him that gives you but a curse. And like the earth, be generous and calm, and turn impurities of men's hearts into pure health and beauty. And like the air, be free and supple. The sword that will wound you, the sword that will wound you will finally tarnish and rust. The arm that would harm you will finally weary and halt. The world, not knowing you, cannot contain you. Therefore shall it receive you with a snarl. But you, knowing the world, can contain it. Therefore you must allay its wrath with kindleness, and drown its calumny in loving understanding. And understanding shall carry the day. So taught I Noah, so I teach you.
Thank you. So also golden rule, fundamental. Okay, so we'll close page 174 with final prayer and arati. And very much the choosing of the divine nature, the intentional choice of the divine nature and rising up in the divine nature.
On Monday, you told me so many people who bombed inside and out stay in the light. Yeah. That really helped me.
Stay in the light. Just a commentary a little bit on what's happening in the world, etc. Through our own prayers, our own service, our own relating to the highest and our own efforts to embody it, we may not change the things that happen in this world, but what we contribute to is the deeper connection for all. In other words, we can't necessarily change the things that will happen to us. But we've harbored an idea that happiness relies upon us changing the things that happen to us. But that's a falsehood, you see. That's a falsehood. We had this beautiful conversation the other day about fate and free will. And what is free will really? And free will, of course, relates to our capacity to bring ourselves back to awareness of the highest, or that which is higher, or that which is real, regardless of what is happening outside. And so what we engage in here contributes to this. It contributes to the seeing or the knowing or the relating to that which is higher, in this way. So let us not ever fall back to imagining that what we do doesn't make any difference.
Yes.
Let us not, because whatever we do makes a difference. Whenever we find ourselves empowering the demoniacal nature within us, whenever we empower it through anger, hatred, all of this, empowering these, we make a difference. We contribute. And when we choose to empower the divine nature within us, the light, then so too we do. We find ourselves, this Sangha, and all of us who are aware of something higher, we find ourselves in such a very interesting time. And it's so easy for us to fall back into the tools of the handmaiden of judgments and anger and hatred and all of this, which are exactly the same demoniacal tendencies that the ones that we're judging are lost in.
Yes. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Final prayers in RT, page 174. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Morgai Rukmeva Bandhanan Mritor Mukshiyamamritat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Morgai Rukmeva Bandhanan Mritor Mukshiyamamritat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Morgai Rukmeva Bandhanan Mritor Mukshiyamamritat. Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Shantu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Makashit Dukhabhave Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mritor Ma Mritam Gamaya. Om Purnamida Purnamidam Purnamudashate Purnasya Purnamahadaya Purnameva Vasishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O adorable Lord of mercy and love, salutations and prostrations unto thee. Thou art omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. Thou art Satchidananda. Thou art existence, knowledge, and bliss absolute. Thou art the indweller of all beings. Grant us an understanding heart, equal vision, balanced mind, faith, devotion, and wisdom. Grant us inner spiritual strength to resist temptation and to control the mind. Free us from egoism, lust, anger, greed, hatred, and jealousy. Fill our hearts with divine virtues. Let us behold thee in all these names and forms. Let us serve thee in all these names and forms. Let us ever remember thee. Let us ever sing thy glories. Let thy name be ever on our lips. Let us abide in thee forever and ever. On below Satchidananda Maharaj Ki, and for all the saints and sages of all the traditions. And thrice for